I'm super excited for this camp because it's kind of different than what we've done in the past where we kind of create everything from scratch. In this camp, I've already made a design with a few different pages and interactions, and we'll be using this design in Figma to develop the interface in SwiftUI with a few interactions as well. But yeah, I'm super excited. So this is kind of the app demo, I guess, with the interactions and the prototypes all kind of combined. I've kind of made my own rendition of the Tesla app because I think it's a pretty helpful challenge to kind of figure out what drivers want and need in a car app, especially when you have all the technology available to you. So you can just unlock and lock your car pretty quickly here. These I obviously do just for the sake of our time. I might add later. Gear for settings on your account and such. It shows you how many miles you've charged. It shows the status of your vehicle as well as when it was last updated. I think this is important because if you don't have like service or the car has terrible connection, at least you know how long it's been since that has happened. Quick shortcuts basically allow you to add things that you want, actions that you want. So say you want your fan to turn on, you can click this and you can see it'll turn on the fan. You can always tap out to kind of dismiss it or hit the cancel to deny it. Maybe you want to have charging settings available, so kind of see set charge limits and stop charging if your car is charging. Media controls, so you can control the music that's going on in the car. This is Don't Take the Money by Bleachers, really good song. As well as volume control. Closing a charge port perhaps. Recent actions, so maybe show the last few that you've done, so maybe opening a trunk or turning off your fan. Or trying to summon your vehicle. Right here, I've kind of turned it into kind of a grid of sorts. And so you can kind of see I've done controls. This is pretty simple of a page. I've also, climate is blue because it's kind of cooling. Done the location, so it's kind of a map where you can kind of play a little sound from your vehicle as well as find the general location of it. Empire State Building. As well as the summon controls. And then one really cool feature that I thought, you can also, reorder groups. So say you want these at the top, you can just kind of reorganize how this is set up and maybe go to more of a traditional layout like the current app has. So it gives the opportunity for you to do these things, which I think is super important because you can then, make workflows for your morning. Say every morning you want to be able to, heat up your car or have certain music or have the news stations or radio stations playing when you enter. This is helpful like that, or start charging when in the morning or at night, things like that. So yeah, and then I think one of the cooler features is the voice command. So you can click on that and it kind of looks like a waveform and you can kind of speak into it. So this one's like go to Times Square. And this is kind of similar to the actual car's voice command system, where you just hold a button and it kind of asks you, hey, what do you need? This also enables you to do it from your home and everything, but it also gives passengers, the capability of being able to tell the voice command stuff. Especially this media controls thing, you could have it so the car kind of blocks all other features except media controls, where someone can be the in-car DJ and such. The Figma file is kind of looks simple when I show it to you. This is all of our kind of views. You can see all these are our modals / overlays. These are all done through components. So if I change, the color of this to red, you'll see that they all kind of update, which is really helpful, I guess, in adapting our design. This is a component. We use icon properties, which is really new in Figma, to be able to kind of manipulate these for this and change the icon. And we use this component again in this action button, which is also everywhere here and here. So components make things super easy, even here and here, for adaptation, or if you want to duplicate things over several frames and views and such. What's really cool about Figma is that we can actually just isolate on certain things. So maybe this microphone icon right here, and we can inspect, and you can see that we have a lot of different things. So CSS, we also have iOS data. This is for UIKit. We won't be using UIKit today. We'll be using SwiftUI. It's much easier to build and much faster to build in. But we still get a lot of different data, font families, styles, sizes, typography, and such, because this is text. We also get, you know, if I kind of isolate this bar right here, you can see we get colors and radius and all that fun stuff. So today we'll be building this app. And like I said, I've already attached this link for you, so you can always just kind of check it out. And I'll hopefully might add more to it and kind of flush it out and such. This is just kind of there so you can kind of see it and take a screenshot of what it would look like. So yeah, you can access this just with the link, or you can create a Figma account and duplicate it and kind of make it your own. So yeah. All right, so let's jump straight into Xcode. Xcode is Apple's proprietary IDE, which stands for an integrated developer environment. And with it, we can, you know, develop our apps using SwiftUI, which is an awesome framework by Apple that allows us to, you know, create views and such. It makes apps really, really easily. So you can make basic apps super easily. Our stem pump app is written majority in SwiftUI, even though we have, you know, some UIKit stuff hidden in there. But yeah, so you'll kind of open up Xcode and you'll see something like this. We'll create a new Xcode project. It's gonna load up. There we go. It'll be for iOS. It'll be an app. So you can add a organization identifier. This is mine. You can choose SwiftUI as an interface, Swift, and make sure all the settings are the same. I'll do my Tesla app or something similar to that. I'll just hit create. All right, so let's jump straight into it. So this is our interface. You should see this. What we're first going to do is go to the top and kind of change this. I'll make this the iPhone 13 Pro. You can hit resume. I'll also just kind of expand this and make my code bigger. On this side is our kind of files. So this is our Swift file called content view. We won't really be messing with this that much. And it's kind of right here that we'll edit our code inside of these structs with a var buddy some view. This displays it right here, so you can see that. We can actually just change this from hello world to this is my app. And you can kind of see it changes in real time, which is really, really cool with SwiftUI. On the side, you can manipulate a lot more. So here we can maybe change the font to large title. We can make it semi-bold. We can make the color red. And you can kind of see it does all those things. We will kind of move this to the side for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to drop this in here. I'm going to make that smaller. Small enough so I can just do that and hide it, just so we can kind of see what our layout looks like next to the app, and kind of go from here. So that should be good. I'll kind of leave it as my Tesla app. We're not going to be designing for iPad today, so you can check that out. And then for assets and our app icon, I've already attached app icons for you. So you can just kind of drag and drop it if it'll let me. And I'll just kind of drag that in here. And you'll see it all kind of just, I like this green. And I'll go here, and it won't really show, but I'll rebuild it. And then we'll kind of see it in a little bit, hopefully. There we go. Cool, and you can see the icon already updated there at the top. We can just delete this old one because we don't need it anymore. And good to go. So this is our app. So let's start actually building our interface. This image will also be available to you for download. So yeah, let's start building out what our app looks like. So what we can do is we'll kind of start at the top and work our way down. So what we're first going to do is create a Z stack. And a Z stack essentially enables us to have different layers of 3D layers, because this item on here always will stay on the top. And we'll start with this and kind of work our way backwards. So what we'll do is and this Z stack is for, I guess, the Z dimension, which is 3D. We'll do a V stack, which stands for vertical stack, and we'll add a spacer. And a spacer basically takes up all the space in a view. So if we had a V stack, it'll just take up all this space. So see if I add text here, hello, you can see it's at the bottom. Here, it'd be at the top. pretty straightforward. We want it at the bottom. We'll add an H stack, and we'll add another spacer, and this will push it right here, or obviously right there. Also very, very straightforward. So let's first add our icon. We can write image, system name, and we'll write mic.fill. And this is how we do these icons here. And we'll add an image scale of large to make it bigger, but I don't really like that. And with the image and system name, we can actually just add our own custom. So I'll add a size of 16. That was wrong. I'll make it semi-bold and I'll leave it at default. You can see that wasn't big enough. I'll make it 32. And that seems about right where I want it. We actually set it to 24 here. So I might actually just set it to 24 and kind of get away with that. We can always manipulate it later. What I'm also going to do is add a frame. And a frame allows us to set width and height. And I'll set a total frame of 64 pixels. And a height also of 64. You can see that when we have this frame, we have 64 by 64. I'll remove this. And we can add a background. And for now, we'll do color.green. You can see this. What we're also going to do is add a clip shape. And we're going to write circle. That way, it becomes a circle. And what we finally want to do is have it kind of nestled up in this corner. I'm going to add something called edge ignore safe area all, and we'll kind of add it, I guess, to this outside. And it'll kind of nestle it in here. And we're going to add something called padding, and padding will essentially allow us to kind of leave this, it'll add space around it. If we had padding on the outside of an object, it'll add space around it. And if we had padding on the inside of something, it'll put space inside of it. We can't really see it because of this. But you'll see like this, we can have padding. And you can kind of see it becomes that. But if we remove it, nothing happens. If we put it here, it does that. So kind of go here. And finally, we'll add a shadow. Shadow with a radius of 4. Maybe 10. 2. I like 10. Let's go 10. I'll add a radius of 10. So just like that, we've already added our little voice command button just straight off the bat. If you want to see what it looks like on your own phone, you can plug your phone in, and you might have an app called Xcode Previews. If you do, you then can click this button right here, and it will actually push it to your phone, so you can actually see what it looks like in real time on your phone as well. So that's really, really helpful when you want to understand scale of things, because I've kind of zoomed in a lot from here. So yeah. So we have that. But this is a lot of code. Over time, we're going to have a lot of code. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this into something called a component. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another struct, and we're going to call it voice command button view var body sum view. And what we're going to do is we're just going to grab all this code we have, cut it, and paste it right here. And now we can write voice command button. I can maybe add another voice command button if I'd like, and you can see that it's just going underneath it because the shadow's increasing. But if I add a H stack right here, you can kind of see that several of them are kind of just popping up all of a sudden. So that's really helpful. With components, just like we did in Figma, we can get away by doing, we can create code once and just duplicate it as many times as we'd like. You can actually go and see some of our components here, or some of our components, but we'll keep on working our way through. What we'll also do is add a scroll view, so we can scroll through our content. We'll add a H stack for this, so if this is an H stack. We'll add a V stack right here to kind of display two pieces of text that you can write text. We'll write model 3, and we'll add another piece of text that says Mach 5. That's a Speed Racer reference if anyone understood it. And then also right here, we'll add another H stack, and I'll kind of explain this in a little bit. what we're going to do is we'll kind of start styling our text out. But you can kind of see that we need some padding on this. So we'll add some padding on the outside. You can also see it's misaligned. We can add a frame. And what's kind of cool is you don't even need to specify. You don't actually need a frame. You can just use alignment.leading. And we can also, and and leading basically means left aligning. And trailing means right aligning. Let's start with this little pill at the top here. It's red, so we can add a background of color.red. We can also add foreground, and foreground color is essentially the text color itself of white. We're going to add some padding, and you can see it's pretty big for our taste. So what I can do is as simple as adding all around padding. So we can do vertical 4, and then we can do .padding.horizontal 8. We can add a clip shape of a capsule, and you see it rounds it out. We can add a .uppercased to make that uppercased. And then finally, let's start manipulating the font. Before we used .system for custom fonts, but maybe we want to try something that's been predetermined by us that will scale well with iOS with accessibility. You can also add font weight, and we'll add medium, or maybe we'll do semi-bold. I don't know what I used here. We'll go with medium. We'll also do that other text, so I'll make that a font.large title, and you can see it's much bigger. We can add a font weight of semi-bold, and I don't actually like how spaced off it is. We can mess with that by writing spacing here and making it 0 and kind of seeing how much that looks like. Let's do 10 maybe. And just like that, we've already designed that much of our view. What I'm also going to do is, obviously, I think there's padding around all of this. So what we're actually going to do is just leave that padding on the outside. We're going to kind of we're going to cut this, and we're going to add another struct. We're going to call it app, our home header. This is the header view, and this is really kind of the general construction of our body, and you can kind of paste it in there. If you ever want to align your code and indent all of it, I need an extra semicolon there. I'll add home header, add padding to it, and you'll see that it'll kind of get fixed now. If I hit resume, it'll recheck the code. If you ever want to indent everything, just Command A and Control I, and Control I will do it. Command A just selects everything. So that's it. Now let's add our background color. And we can do that by adding a frame. We can set a max width of infinity, a max height of infinity, and then adding a background, maybe blue. I'll make it black for now. Then a foreground of white. That way, any text that isn't styled like this will automatically become white. But we don't have really a black as our background. So let's kind of talk about custom colors. We can jump into assets and create a new folder, and we'll call it colors. And we'll create a new color set. I'll call it green. And you can see that we have two appearances, a light and a dark. We're just going to use none, so we get a single color. And we're going to use Xcode to do it. So hex. And you can actually go here and change this from floating point to 8-bit hexadecimal. I'm just going to paste it. We're also going to add a red. So we'll get our own custom red. And you can kind of see, I'll have those there as well. We can add a new color set. You're going to set it to none. You're going to click on it, change the hexadecimal. You'll see it on screen, red. You can also rename it by hitting enter and writing it. We'll add another color. Or not like that, sorry. Add another color. We're going to call it none right there. Decimal. And we're going to call this one dark gray. Let me see if we have any other colors in our design. We have this blue, so I'll grab that. I keep hitting new. New color set. Blue. You can also rename it right here on the side. We're gonna set it to none for appearance. Then we're going to go to hexadecimal, change that to blue, and that's 0075FF. Everything else will just be a gray that we'll kind of default with. So you can go back here, and to use the new colors that we've defined, so we'll start with this button right here. We'll actually write a few things. So instead of this, we're gonna now name it green. Our foreground color will be color dark gray. You can hit resume, so it knows that we've made these changes. This should update. Cool. This red is our own red now. And it's really just as simple as writing the name of the color that we've specified, and it'll change. And then our background, dark gray. There we go. Pretty easy, and I can try again if it, there we go. I don't know, it's complaining. It's good. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. Let's work on these buttons on the side. So we can actually go down and create a struct. We're going to call it general button. And it will set a we'll set text for it, just like we did before. Or actually, image. Sorry, image system.name, and we're going to do lock.fill. You can hit Command B to build it, just so it understands that things are changing. And we'll add our general buttons right here. I'll add 2 of them. And you'll see that locks should probably, oh, I spelled it wrong, lock.fill. You'll see that 2 locks pop up. You can look at this. It's 44 pixels by 44 pixels. So you can do the same thing that we did for our command block thingy right here. We'll add a clip shape right there, circle. And for this, we'll do a background. We'll do color.white. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply an opacity to it, which basically means transparency. That transparency will be 5. So we can actually just write color.white.opacity 0.05. It's like super light. And then what we're also going to do is add an outline to it. And how we can add an outline to it is by using this feature called overlay. And overlay allows us to put things over other views. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of enter here. We're going to write circle, because that's the shape that we have. And we're going to write dot stroke, color.white, line width 1. And you can see that we now have these strokes around it. We're actually going to, instead of 1, we're going to go to 0.5. And those are really thin. And we'll add an opacity of 0.1, which is 10%. Now, we want our icons to change. How do we do that? Right before var body, we can actually specify similarly to our properties in Figma. We can write var icon, that's the name of our variable, and apply a data type, so string. We can replace this icon lock.fill with icon. You can see the colors. And now in here, we can write icon and write lock.fill and icon gear. And hit resume. And just like that, we're able to make this work. It looks pretty similar. I think we just need to go a little bit bigger in font size. So we can use image scale.large to get that result that we'd like. And that kind of just does it out the gate for us. This would needed to be a little bit bigger, obviously. And just like that, we've already created the top of our app. What I'm going to do now is add a VStack, because we're going to be adding content above and below it. We're going to move this padding to the outside of it. But I'm also going to add some top padding to this just to give us some more space to work with. And we can just literally do that by adding dot top. So we can keep working our way down by adding a divider. And we can't really see the divider, but it exists there. So what we're going to do is create our own divider component. We're going to struct custom divider view var body. We're going to do a rectangle dot frame max width of dot infinity. Our frame height, you can have multiple frames, is 0.5. And then we'll add a fill of color.white.opacity 0.05. Sorry, background. And we hit resume. And now I can add a custom divider. You can see that's how it reacted. It didn't like us using that opacity system. So instead we can actually just move this to the outside. And you can see we get perfect results just like we like. And now we can, and I'll just indent really quickly. That looks green because I'm highlighting. And now we can work on our car area. So we'll call this car section. Create another struct. Car section. There'll be a view. Bar body. And it's gonna be a V stack with an H stack on top, which is this part. So let's get that done. It's gonna be as simple as adding text, as adding another H stack, adding an image for our little battery icon that we have here, and this is called a battery.75. 75. You can hit resume. And it should pop up like right here, hopefully. No? Oh, it's kind of getting annoyed. There it is. We're going to write 237 miles dot uppercased. And then we're going to add a spacer. And we're going to add a VStack. This VStack is going to be aligned trailing, which basically means to the right. Trailing. It's going to be a piece of text that says parked and another piece of text that says last updated 5 min ago. Already off to a good start. I'll indent this just to make it easier. We're going to add a foreground color to this H stack of our green. We can just add this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a font. And we can actually add a font here as long as we use the custom, which is the systems. And we'll set that to 16. We'll make it semi-bold and we'll make it rounded. I think that's pretty close to what we have here, unless we did, yeah, pretty close. We did 14, so 14. And that looks pretty good. Then for parked, we're going to add we're just going to use a generalized, we'll do, that's a little bit bigger. I actually just kind of like how it is, which is the default. We'll make it medium. And we'll also make this bottom one, we'll make this dot gray. We'll add I'll add the font on top of it, dot font, dot sub headline. Don't like that. Let's do footnote. Or caption 2. That might be good. Cool. We also want these to be aligned to each other. So we can actually do that by, in our H stack right here, we can actually set a alignment to the center. And you can kind of see how they're centered. We didn't do that at the top here because I wanted this to kind of be skewed a little bit. But yeah. Let's also look at something here. Our home header. You can kind of, if I comment this out, what does it do? So you can kind of see that. You see, we have this, that. Let's add some consistent spacing. So 10. Yeah, 20. I kind of like 20 a little bit more. For custom divider, can we go thinner? I actually really like the 0.25 instead. Okay. And maybe actually just make this semi-bold just to make it stand out a little bit more. Cool. Okay, so we can keep on moving on. And we can add an image. So you can go back to our assets and just kind of make a new image asset. I'm going to call it car. And I'm just going to drag in my car image. There it is. And it's honestly as simple as just being like, hey, system, or car. and hitting resume. This is what I named it, yeah, car. If we hit resume, we'll get this. It's massive. We're gonna add a dot resizable to it. But then it kind of shrinks really weirdly, and then we can add a dot aspect ratio dot fit, and boom, problem solved. That's literally it when it comes to adding our car into this. We'll actually apply a VStack spacing on this overall one of 10, just to kind of give us some space to work within. And then boom, add a custom divider at the bottom, and we've already finished the top half of our view. Super easy and super intuitive to go through. Now let's kind of work our way through this next block. So let's add this quick shortcuts. So we can add struct category. Yeah, we'll call it category, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these for the both. These are going to be the same component. We're going to call it category view. It's going to be a type view, var body, some view. And it'll be a VStack and an HStack. The text will say quick shortcuts, add a spacer, another text that says edit, and just like that, we can now add a category view right here, a custom divider right there, and another category view. We can hit resume. When you add a lot of code, it kind of pauses it and lets you work through and then kind of jump back into it. Awesome, so there's our stuff. We can start styling it by adding a generalized font. We're going to do title 2. We're going to make it semi-bold. So that kind of works out. We're going to set the color of this to gray. We're going to make the font weight semi-bold. Not semi-bold, medium. We're also going to make this HStack align in the center, just in case it isn't, because text sizes are different. And we can actually make this into a button, so we can tap on it and have some cool things appear. So you can actually do button. It won't have any action, because that's not what today is, but when you tap on it, you'll get some stuff. So if you hit this play button, you can tap and you can kind of see there's this cool little fade. You can also try and scroll it and kind of see that everything kind of stays where it needs to be. We can actually do the same thing. I'll kind of copy this for our general buttons. I'll add it here and I'll explain why in a little bit. And so now if I hit play, you can they kind of have this cool little animation to them. So yeah, category view completed, good to go. But we have 2 levels. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create 2 variables. We're gonna create our text. We're gonna call it title string, and we can go into category views and call title. We're gonna call this quick shortcuts, and another title that is recent actions. And we're actually just going to add a title here, title. And then we're also going to add a boolean. So boolean, edit, or show edit, boolean, which means it can be true or false, and it's called bool. And we can literally just write if show edit there. And we can also say it shows false. It's equal to false, which means that they won't show up, but we have to specify it. So for this one, we want it to show for quick shortcuts. So you can see show edit true, and we'll override that. What we're also going to do is we're actually just going to duplicate this, and we're just going to kind of cut that, and we're going to call it category header, title show edit, because we also use it down here, so it's imperative that we kind of understand how this works, and we can kind of remove that and that, and so we've kind of broken this up now. This is now its own view. Hit resume. So we still have our category views right here, and we can keep on going on. Let's create a scroll view now, a horizontal scroll view to kind of scroll through these. So we can write scroll view just like we did before, but now we can write horizontal, shows indicators false. And then inside here, we can add some text maybe. So hello, And you can see if I add several of them and hit run, you can move them to the side. But what we actually need to do is inside here is create an H stack. And you can now see that we can kind of swipe back and forth really easily. But we want to create this now. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another struct. We're going to call it action button var body. It's going to be a V stack. It's going to be aligned to the center. I'll kind of delete this all out. It's going to consist of a general button. So it's going to have an icon. So we can set up an icon variable here, string icon. And we're also going to set up some text. So text string text. If we hit build, it should work. Build succeeded. And we can now add our action buttons. So icon text. Let me add some of ours. So this is bolt.fill. And we're going to call this charging. And I'll kind of just duplicate this like 4 times, 2, 3, 4. Resume. As I got the other ones. This one's fan blades.fill. And it's fan on. This one is play pause.fill. And we're going to call it media controls. And then this last one is about closing our charge port. And that one is, if I can find it, pretty sure it's just bolt.car. There we go. And this was close charge port. And you now see if we swipe, we kind of get a little bit of that. So let's kind of align them properly first. So we'll add a font weight of medium. Actually, what we'll do is we'll do custom font for this just to kind of get what we want out of it. And we kind of set the size to be around 12. So 12 dot semi-bold dot default. And you see it'll shrink. We're also going to add a frame to this text width of, I think, 64. If it lets me do that. There we go. 64 I don't like. I want to make that maybe 96. No, 72. There. This is good. We're also going to add a multi-line text alignment to the center. So now we have that. And then also what we need to do is we need to align our H stack to the top right here. You can kind of tell because these are all misaligned. Cool. Yeah, this icon, this play one is like super, like it's, I hate how it is. We can just use like maybe play.fill. It might size better. Yeah, that size is better. We'll just use the play button, or we can do like a music button. So music.note, maybe. Let's do music.note. This one I had to custom style because it didn't really look that good. And so yeah, we're good to go with our little settings here. Okay, what we're going to do now is, so we can actually duplicate this, is we're going to create a data struct. So we've already created these structs before, but we're going to create a data struct that allows us to create icons and text that we can kind of alternate. So we'll create a struct. We're going to call it action item. It's going to consist of a icon, which is a string, and a text, which is also a string. And then we're going to say let quick shortcuts equal, or actually, and then we're going to this to let it know it's an array. An array is kind of like a several of a single item. An array of action item. And we can kind of go from here. We can add these square brackets. And so action item, icon text. So bolt.fill. We're going to write charging, comma, action item, icon, fan blades dot fill, fan on, action item, media controls. Oh, that's the wrong one. I think it's what? Music.note. Then media controls. Action item of what is it? Bolt.car. And we're going to call that close charge port. So we have this, and then let's add our other actions that we kind of specified here. I think we only need 3, so I can delete this last one. And I'll call this recent actions. And so we'll have that first one, which I think is arrow up.square. Kind of just copy paste this. Up.square. And that is open trunk. Just normal Flambase is off. And then this summon one is a kind of a doozy to write. Is a person.fill.viewfinder. And so you can hit resume, everything works the same. In our category view, we're going to ask for one more variable, which is action items. It's an array of action item. And so if I hit build, it's going to crash at the top because it's going to expect 2 action item arrays. And we already wrote them. So quick shortcuts. And I think recent actions. So that's good. We use let because we're not going to change them. And now what we're going to do is inside of this H stack, we're going to actually remove all of this. We're going to add a for each. And for each action items, we're going to do item in. We can write action button icon text. And actually, we're going to simplify it even further. We can just ask for an item, action item, and we'll do item.icon. Item.text, and now we can just write action button item. We can build, and it's going to complain about this identifiable. And really, just to fix this, we can add this little piece of code called self, basically meaning that they need to be hashable. Can I just like set this hashable? Cool. Problem solved. And we can hit resume, and you can now see that now they're specified. Based on different functionality. All right, now we can kind of jump into this little settings thing down here. We can add I'll kind of align everything. I'll remove this because I don't really need that, and I'll kind of expand how much room I have to code. We'll add a custom divider below here. Kind of just we'll add. I guess it should pop in at the bottom of this. Hopefully. It's super weird. I don't know why it's not popping up. That's okay, though. Our code says it's there. Let's work on this bottom. We're going to be using a grid to do this, so that'll be kind of fun because I love the SwiftUI grid. Right, so we can hit try again. And what we're now going to do is we're going to add all settings. And we're going to go to the bottom. Struct all settings. View. Var body. And first we're going to create a VStack. This VStack is going to contain a category header, and we can just literally just set this. Instead of having variables, we can say we're going to remove the show edit because it defaults to false. And then we can also just set the title to all settings. I'll turn that off. So we have all settings, and we can create a grid now. What we're going to do is we're going to create this little block first. And so we'll write struct setting block view var body some view. And we want to actually see what it looks like till the end. So first, obviously, is a H stack, then a V stack. We're going to have an image system name here. It's going to be called icon, var icon string. You should be getting used to this now. We're going to have a var title string, a var subtitle, which is also a string, which is that bottom text. We're going to set this equal to blank, and a var show or has subtitle will be a boolean, and we're going to set this to false, to Yeah, false. All right, so text, title, text, subtitle, but if has subtitle show. Should be good to go. Awesome. So that's our like super basic way to do this. We're going to be adding a lazy grid, a lazy V grid. We're going to set some columns up. It's going to be a grid item with dot fixed of 150. And kind of see where that goes. Then we can add just a bunch of settings blocks. So settings blocks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, I accidentally removed it. Canvas. There we go. It's going to say we're missing the parameters for all of these, so we might as well add them. Car.fill controls fan blades.fill climate. Location.fill location. Then checkerboard.shield security, and then I think sparkle.fill. I think that's it. Let me see. Or just sparkles. Sparkles. And then upgrades. You can hit resume. And you can kind of see that. Actually, we can just comment out all of this just to kind of see what it looks like. And we have all these. We set it to 100. And now let's set our columns. You can actually check how wide our columns are. And they're around like 170, I guess. But we also want to be able to, oh, I know where I messed up. We have to add 2 of these because we have 2 columns. There we go. There are 2 columns, and everything just will kind of work out. We can also add a var background color, and we'll actually set this to color. And we're actually we're gonna default it to color.white.opacity 0.05. I think that's what we set it to. Let me open up the component. All right, so we can actually start styling. So we can add some padding. We're gonna add some spacer around it. Resume. We're gonna add another image. System name chevron.right. We're gonna add a background. That's gonna be equal to background color. We're gonna add a clip shape. This one's gonna be a rounded rectangle with a corner radius of, let me see, 16. Might be a lot, or not. We're actually gonna set up some of our has subtitle be true. Subtitle. I should use it before. Subtitle. Interior. I'll actually can I just copy this text? Yeah, cool. There's a degree symbol there. And we'll also say, actually, we can actually remove this has subtitle, and you'll see why. If subtitle dot is empty, and we get an exclamation mark, which means basically if subtitle is not empty, and if we have text in it, obviously it isn't. Subtitle Empire State Building. Then subtitle 0 events detected, and then another subtitle 3 upgrades available. All right, awesome. So if I hit resume, they should all now pop up. There we go. Cool, 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 cool. Now let's start setting everything up. So we're going to align this leading. We're also going to give a background color to this. So background color blue because we gave it a blue. We can also add our overlay, obviously, and that will be a rounded rectangle, corner radius 16 dot stroke. I think we did stroke, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can honestly just copy paste this. This is me the same thing. Cool. So you can kind of see that looks, it's getting more familiar. You know, a font weight of semi-bold. We're also going to add a, we're going to make this uppercase. We're going to add a font.caption2 to make it like really, really small. You actually need to go smaller than that. So I'll go to system, write 10.medium.default. If it folds, we're going to actually add something called fixed size. It's going to have a horizontal, true, vertical, false. Here's what I'm going to do. We'll kind of leave it like that for now. Or honestly, I'll just kind of add a subtitle in because I don't want to overcomplicate it with things for now. So we'll say, I guess, car locked will be our subtitle for this. Cool. And we'll also actually add a spacing of 0. And actually, can I go even smaller than, I don't like this. I'm also gonna make this smaller right here. Let's make this 20, let's make that 8. I think here we made it 16 and 8. 20 is way too big. 16 and 8. And I actually just, I'll add a leading padding of 5. And that should provide a better response. And let's see if we can actually add a frame max width dot infinity to these. Line limit of 1. Cool. We can stay with that. I think it's fine. Leading. No, I can set it to here. There we go. And then add a spacing, obviously, of like 5, 2. Cool. So we have that grid also designed out. So that's pretty cool and helpful. We can actually just add these all back in. But actually before that, I'm going to add one more thing, which is this little button at the bottom that says Reorder Groups. And that's, I'll just write Reorder button. And it's super, super easy. We can still do Struct Reorder button. Text reorder groups. We can add a background, color.white.opacity 0.05. We can add a clip shape of a capsule. And you can kind of see it should just kind of pop up right there. Font.caption. Padding dot horizontal would be 8. Padding dot vertical would be 4. Let's go 12 and 6. 8 and 14. I actually like that more. Cool. And we can literally just drop this, of course, inside a button. So now I can uncomment the rest. And I'm actually going to add it to my phone now. You can actually type in your phone, hit the play button here. So after pressing the play button, you'll see your app install. So here's my app with the little icon and whatever, and it should auto open, or you can just tap on it, and you can kind of see the UI that we've developed. It looks pretty good on iPhone. I cannot say the same for other devices because we only did it for the newer models. But it looks, pretty good. We can tap on buttons and stuff. Some of these have controls, whatever. But yeah, it's super basic. Obviously, there's no functionality to it. And yeah, I'll kind of be working on navigation, building out some of these other pages. But yeah, the first thing I wanted to try and do was actually decrease the size of this to 14, and decrease the size of this to 6, add a spacing of 4 between it. And honestly, let's see, I probably do 8, 7. It might be a little bit too small, but I think it looks a lot closer. If I can do 2 here. Padding. For the horizontal, I can go 8. And then padding dot vertical 16. That gives us a little bit more room to play with. I can go 8, I think now. And I think this actually looks better. So we can kind of stick with this. We can go to 10, but then things kind of start getting cut off. So I think this is around 20. So I think 8 is good here. So yeah, that looks good. Okay, so what we're gonna now do is kind of move. We're gonna kind of make some new files, and start navigation. What I'm first gonna do is you can actually hold Command and click on this, and then we're just gonna write embed in HStack. We're not actually gonna use an HStack. We're actually gonna write navigation view. And the whole thing is just going to kind of change. And actually what I'll do instead is I'll actually wrap the entire layer in the navigation view. We can actually delete this. There we go. And you can kind of see that off the bat, we have a lot more space at the top. And this is because we're essentially now using kind of the similar navigation that you see in most general apps from Apple. So if I write navigation title, you can kind of see that Tesla shows. But we don't really want that. What we're going to do is we're going to write navigation title. We're just going to call it Mach 5. And then we're also going to add .navigation bar hidden true. And pretty much like that, we kind of get to hide it away, but we still get to benefit from the navigation. And I'll kind of explain how that works. What we're also going to do is for our let's see if I can do this. Actually, it doesn't really matter. We're going to start off with controls, so this view. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new file, so you can right-click and create new file. It's going to be a SwiftUI view, and we're going to call it car controls view. And you now see that we have just a little view that says hello world, and this is where we can edit that view. We can go back to content view. We can find this controls. And we can create a navigation link, which is similar to a button, but it allows us to navigate using iOS's and SwiftUI's navigation stack. So now we can write car controls view, and when we're doing views, we want to add the 2 parentheses, and then just enclose it like this. You can see all our errors go away. And then if I stop it, and I hit play, you can now see that we have a navigation. You can kind of see we have this little back button and whatnot. We're not going to be using this, obviously, but now you can kind of understand how this all kind of works. So what I'll actually do is I'm going to copy all of this just into here so we can kind of maintain our same layout of the backgrounds. We're going to we can remove the navigation view because we only need it on the parent view. We don't really need a Z stack, so I'm just going to make, because we have nothing to overlay, so I can remove this Z stack. With views, if they're in one file, you can use them somewhere else, basically. I'm going to remove this, and I can do that. And all I'm going to really add is this custom divider here. That'll be our only view. And you can kind of see, okay, everything looks good, and I can hit resume, and our arrows will go away. And all we're left with is this right here. So we can actually just start building out what we want it to look like. First, let's do this little back arrow. So I'll add an H stack, I'll add a spacer, and I'll add a general button with chevron dot left. There we go. And so that's kind of fixed one of our problems so far. And then what we're going to also add is, that's basically already done, is add this title. So what we're going to do is kind of group these, so we can actually just command click vstack, add a text, and we're going to call it car controls. Hit resume. We're going to align this Z stack to be leading, and that works. We're going to add a font dot title 2, maybe even title. I think we would be good with just going a little bit bigger. I don't think there's any problem with that. Font weight dot semi bold, and then maybe the current spacing, if it's like 20, so maybe 10. I think we can get away with 10. I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, we have that so far. So we can actually go back to this view right here, and if I hit resume, so now that this is loaded, we can kind of see what happens. I can click on this, but now we can't go back. And the reason we can't go back is because we removed our navigation bar. So what we're going to add is we're going to add something called a environment wrapper, and it's basically going to allow us to dismiss this view, which basically means go back. And so we're going to write at environment, and then we're going to do backslash dot presentation mode var presentation mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a button, so button action, paste this in here, and then inside the action we're going to write presentation mode dot wrapped value dot dismiss. Again, wait, resume. Just clicking on this right now won't do anything because we are not in a navigation view. So we can go back here, and if I kind of go to this, you can see if we click on it, it allows us to go back. You can't do the back swipe thing, but there's code that you can add later on to enable that functionality once again. Yeah, it doesn't let us do if it's like, see, most likely because of the home indicator. You can now see that we have this. Okay, cool. So let's add the rest of our little functionality here. Below the custom divider, we can add a unlock car thing. And essentially how this is going to look is like so. We're actually going to use something called a label. You can do Command-Shift-L to bring up a little panel like this, or you can hit the plus button right here, and you can just search. So we're going to write a label. And you can see we can add a lock.fill. Alright, sorry, not there. I messed it up. There we go. Cool. And we kind of get the functionality out of the box. We're going to use the system font to kind of style it a little bit differently. So that looks pretty good. Maybe go medium on it. I actually really don't like how big that is anymore. Let's go to title 2. I think that looks a lot more neater. And honestly, well, we can go with 16. I think 14 just feels a little bit nicer. And then what we'll do is we'll add a frame. We'll add a max width of .infinity. We'll also set a background. And I'm actually going to go back to our general button to kind of see how we did that. I think we used like what, the dark gray. We'll just honestly just take. Actually, we can. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, we did this for a very specific reason, and I'll explain why. I'll copy this and honestly just kind of paste it. Resume. And move these. Move that. We're gonna put this frame behind there. Move the clip there. We're gonna add padding. And the padding actually should go before the background. Cool. And actually, instead of even doing this, I'm just gonna use our dark, actually no, I'll just use that. That works, honestly, that's fine. And then we have a problem here. We want it to round. So what we'll actually do is a clip shape, a rounded rectangle, corner radius 14 dot continuous. I like continuous over circular. If you want to do circular, you can literally just do a corner radius. That's like that. But I like overlay. I mean a clip shape because I can just copy paste the shape that we clip, and it kind of just works out for us because of how overlay and stroke work together. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to write command click this and write extract subview, and then we're going to name it car lock button. And then also here, just so we can get the little cool animation, we'll wrap it in a button. Cool. And so I'll hit Control I to indent it all. And we won't really see any difference, but that's okay. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a custom divider below it. And we're going to just add all these buttons. And these are all pretty easy. I'm just going to go, we can always do a grid if we to do it, but I'm just going to add a few general buttons. Left. Actually, we don't, not general buttons, the action buttons. They're going to have an action item attached to them. And actually what we're going to do is let's create some of these action items. So we're going to create right here, let's let action equal, actually no, car controls equal, and it's actually, we're going to add a colon and this square brackets with the word action item, so it knows that's an array of action items. Action item icon text, and we have 5 of these. 3, oh I messed it up. 3, 1, 4, and then 5. And let me get what these icons are called. So the first one will be a flashlight on.fill. The next one will be, the next icon will be a speaker wave 3. The next one will be key.fill. Then we have the front trunk one, which would be arrow dot up, which I didn't know what icon to choose, so I just did arrow dot up dot bin. And then our last icon will be arrow dot up dot square, and then our titles will be flash, honk, start, front trunk, and then trunk. Resume. Alright, so now that we have our array of car control action items written out, we're just going to do a really quick way to align this little grid we have here. We can't really do it easily with lazy grids, so we're just going to kind of use spacers to kind of do it. So we can actually just start making an H stack, and we'll write action button, and it's going to ask for an item, and we're going to do car controls, so we can it'll get this array, and we're going to square brackets and write 0. This will get the first item. In arrays, we'll start with 0 instead of 1, and so just assume, when we say, 0, it's the first item, 2, it's the 1, it's the second item, and so on and so on. So I can just kind of paste this 3 times, and I'll just change these out. Then I'll wrap this in a VStack, do that again, I'll delete these 2 lines, and then just change it to 3 and 4. And so that matches up pretty well. I'm going to add some spacing of 20, just to kind of give us more space. And we can actually tighten it by adding a padding around it. And I think I just like the default padding. Yeah, we're just going to pad around it. Then we're going to extract that as a subview. And we're just going to call it car control actions. And sometimes it lets you rename it, other times it doesn't. We're at a custom divider. Hit resume. And it's running into that same weird problem where it just doesn't show. That's okay. And we're going to add this little valet mode button. So we can add text, write valet mode, add a spacer. Then we're going to add a toggle. And we're going to just add a we don't need a label. We just remove it. I can just do that, I think. It's going to crash because we need a value here. And we're going to do something called create a state. And we won't really be talking about states a lot today. That'll be part 3 is a lot of state work. But we will be, just kind of writing it here so you can kind of understand. And it's kind of the same way we wrote environment. So at state, we'll do private, doesn't really matter, var, toggle valet equals false. You can add bool just so you can be sure of it. And essentially with states we can change their values. So with a boolean we can change true or false. And so I'll kind of add, you can add a $sign and write toggle valet, and we'll hit resume. We don't really need anything there. We can leave it blank, cool. And we can hit resume. And it should default to false now. And so when we toggle it, it's true and false. And we can actually, let's just add something to make sure that we can track it after kind of styling this out. We'll do medium. Okay, and there's our little thing. Yeah, that works. So what we're going to do is we'll add just a little piece of text here. If toggle valet, and this is the same thing as if writing equals true. The double equal signs means we're checking if it's equals. So if toggle valet, then we're just going to write valet mode is on. And you can kind of see it now. So if I toggle it, you can kind of see that it reacts. So this means this value is false. When I check it, this value is now true. So that's just a quick way so you can kind of see how they react. All right, cool. So that is our car controls view done. Now let's work on getting our location view done. This will be a little bit challenged to get to do the maps, but it'll be worth it in the end. All right, and we don't really scroll here, so we can leave that like so. It doesn't really matter. You can go back to content view, and you can kind of see controls. We can toggle it. We can go back, and yeah, I mean, it's just really simple navigation and such. Awesome. So let's add a new view, new file, SwiftUI view, and we're going to call it location view. Create. And we're going to do another thing. We're going to create another file, new file. It's going to be a normal Swift file, and we're just going to call it common components. And we're going to it's going to say import foundation. We're also going to write import SwiftUI. Cool. And now what we're going to do is going to start copy pasting a lot of our common features. So general button and custom divider are both general features or components because we use them on several different views. Category header, not really. I mean, we only really use it on the main view. Action buttons and action items for sure are common components. I don't think anything in here is a common component. This button definitely is. So what we'll do is we'll actually just take, we're going to actually copy this, and we're going to create two components. We're going to actually, no, let's call it, we're going to call it a full button, and it's going to have a var has icon equals to false. Okay, cool. And then we're also going to ask for var text string. And so that works like that. We'll remove the button just so we can, we can add it if we really want it. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually add another sum view. So we're going to add var icon button. Sum view. And then we'll just kind of literally, boom, paste it. Var icon string equals. And honestly, we'll just remove that. And then we'll add a var text button sum view. It's gonna kind of get frantic. And just replace this top with a text that has text inside of it, and this with text, and this with icon. And literally in here we can say if icon dot is empty, go text button, else icon button. Cool. Okay, so this is all happy now. And now in car controls, what we're going to do is we can actually just keep this. We're going to actually remove this. We're going to call it full button. Unlock car. Cool. So now if I hit resume, oh, that's extra. It all looks and acts the exact same. We can always add modifiers, and a modifier allows us to kind of chain a lot of these together, and we can just apply them as single property modifiers. We can just like merge all these into a single one, but for the sake of time, we'll just kind of keep it simple. All right, so location view. Now this one will indeed have a Z stack. So I'll add a Z stack to it. And just kind of, I guess, even looking back at how this view is structured, we can really just take a lot of these ideas and just paste it. Not even ideas, just take a lot of this functionality and just use it off the bat. Cool, you can do that. We're also going to need this environment presentation view. Right, cool. And so we'll actually remove this just for the sake of it, so we can kind of get a bearings of what our view looks like. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do first is we're going to just kind of remove all of this right now. And so this is what we're left with. What we're first going to do is, honestly, we can even just get rid of that. We're just going to remain on this. So we're going to add a H-stack, add a spacer. We're going to add a action, or no, a button. I actually don't like that button. Stop. We're going to add a button. And it's going to be a general button on the inside. The icon is this speaker one. Cool. So that should kind of pop up. And the other one will be the back button that we literally just had here. So this button, we can copy paste it. I know we deleted it, but we'll need it. And you'll see that we have two icons now. One does a little click. Cool. And then we'll wrap this in a VStack, send it to the top, and just add a padding around it. Cool. So that kind of gets us pretty close to what that looks like. Sizing, I'm not too worried about it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're now going to add a map view, which will be kind of interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a state first that control where our view currently is. So private var region, not even region, I'll just do location equals mk coordinate region. I think I have to import map kit right now, so let me import that. Map kit, there we go. Okay, mk coordinate region. And we're going to have a few different values. We're going to have a center, and the center will be a CL location coordinate 2D with its own latitude and longitude. And then, let's see, we'll also need a span, and this will be an MK coordinate span with a latitude delta and a longitude delta. And we're going to use the Empire State Building latitude and longitude. And so the latitude is 40.7484 and then 73.9587. And we're just going to set these both as 0.5. We're going to hit resume, and it shouldn't complain. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a map view. And it's with this map view, or not even a map. I guess right map. It's not map view, it's just map. And our coordinate region is going to be location. And honestly, we can just hit this. I don't know where we are in the world. We definitely are in the wrong area. So maybe change the longitude. Maybe make it negative. There we go. Yeah, because it's west. So negative. Cool. And we can mess with our longitude deltas and our latitude deltas. Hit resume. And we zoom out a lot more. So let's actually just go to 0.00 to see how close we really get in. I have no clue. Oh, there we go. This is Long Island City. In the wrong area. There it is. Maybe that's too much of a... Yeah, it's very much off. So we'll kind of set it to 0.01. Resume. And yeah, I mean, let me see, did I mess up the longitude, latitude numbers? No, I don't think so. Oh, it's 8.5, that's why not. 8.5, 8.57. Let's resume. There we go. And now if I like go in, I should get a much better result. There we go. Okay. I was worried there for a second. And I'll actually just like jump even closer, to be honest with you, and just kind of see how close you can really get in to kind of match this. That's not that helpful. And increase it. Yeah, that works. All right, so now that we've set this up, let's add our car to this map. We didn't do it in the design, but it's kind of cool to do so. What we're going to first do is create a struct, basically a new data structure, and we're going to call it car location. We're going to call it identifiable, so every location, if we have several cars, can be unique. And we're going to have an ID, so an identifier. It's going to be equal to a UUID, which is just a universal unique value. We're going to give it a name. Actually, we don't even really need a name, so let's keep that. We'll give it a longitude, or latitude. It'll be a double. Let longitude equal a double as well. We're going to create a coordinate. Let coordinate equals, it's going to be an MK, or not MK, sorry. It's going to be a CL location coordinate 2D. And it's actually going to be built off of our two previous latitude and longitude values. I'll make that var, sorry, not let. Cool. We're going to create let car locations equals car location. And we're literally just going to set it to the same exact latitude and longitude. Right there. Alright, and so that's basically all we really need to do when it comes to setting up how this works. It's going to complain about, oh, I forgot that. Cool. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to add annotation items, and that's going to be equal to car locations. Then annotation content, we're going to write location in, and now we're going to call it, we're going to write car pin. Actually, sorry, not car pin. Map annotation coordinate, and we'll write location dot coordinate. We don't really need an anchor point, so we can remove that. And then here we're just gonna write car pin, and now let's create our car pin. We can just do struct car pin view var body sum view. Cool. And literally here, let's just write car. Hit resume. Now, need to add these. Cool, succeeded. And we can hit resume. You can see very lightly it says car, so let's kind of update that. What we're going to do is we're going to create a VStack. In the top, we're going to have an image or an icon, system.name, car.fill. We're going to add a padding around it. Not even a padding, let's just give it a frame. A frame, the width is going to be 24, the height is going to be 24, the background color, I forgot if we added a red color, did we? Yeah, we have our own custom red. Red, resume. Actually, let's do 48. No, 32 by 32. Let's add a clip shape. That's a circle. Foreground car dot white. So you can kind of see the car is right there. Then we can add text beneath it. Mach 5. One of the problems with writing just general text on here is that whatever content's underneath it, like for example right now this blank thinks my Wi-Fi is being weird, it doesn't help us that much. But what we can do is we can add padding around our text, and then we can add a background, and we write ultra thick material, and then we can also provide, say, in rounded rectangle. We can add a corner radius of maybe 8 on a continuous curve, and it becomes a little bit more legible to read. And it essentially blurs the app's background, I guess. And we have a lot of different options. So you can go ultra thin material. That one we can kind of see a little bit better. And there's like a lot of different materials. You can try material, and you got thin, thick. Let's go with ultra thin for now, and then mess with this. You go horizontal 8 dot padding dot vertical 4, and that looks a lot better. We can also add a cool. That's it's like kind of loading in. We can add a font weight of medium. Make the font itself, maybe a footnote. Oh, sorry. Font. And you can kind of see it looks already a lot better. And just to kind of round it out, I'll add an overlay. Dot stroke. And I'll do color dot black dot opacity 0.1. Like a line width of 0.01 as well, 5. You can kind of see if I did 1 looks pretty good, I think. And I'll also add an alignment to the center, just so it wants to try and center inside of the little circle. Yeah, let's go 36. I don't know why it's not wanting to align. Cool. So right there we have that. We have our buttons at the top. So those are pinned. What we're now going to do is actually add this little gradient fade here. And that's actually also really, really easy. We can just add it here to our, we can write gradient. It will be a linear gradient. And we can so we can go from top to bottom. And what we'll do is to color dark gray. And we'll honestly just go to color dot transparent, or color dot clear, sorry. And you can see that looks pretty good, but we're gonna change, just gonna add another one, just so we can kind of get more at the top. And that looks pretty good, but now we can't really drag. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a allow hit testing false, and now we're able to still drag around our map, irregardless of the gradient that's in the way. Okay, what we're also going to do is we're actually going to leave this full screen, and we're going to add this underneath it. So we can do that, and that once again, we can add a VStack, add a spacer, and we can actually just copy those things, and we're going to add another VStack, and inside this VStack, we're going to have some padding. Actually, we'll also do a full width VStack. Padding in it, and then we can literally start adding just text. So location, pretty like standard stuff. And now we can like copy this, resume, location. I'm going to align it to leading. And if that doesn't work, always just add that. Alignment.leading. Cool. I'm going to add a custom divider. And also, we remember that our spacing was 20 on this. 20. We can add that, resume. Cool. I'm going to add a label. And the label is literally, I'm just going to copy and paste this text, which is the address. So we have that. And then we're also going to obviously get, the navigation. Or the location like icon that we have right there. And that icon, I'm pretty sure should just be like location.fill. Cool. We're going to add an opacity of 0.5 to it. I'm going to make, let me see, can I apply the font dot subheadline? Honestly, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'll go footnote. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of, we can kind of group these ones, I guess, into their own little thing. We make it 10. And then I'm going to extract, honestly, this whole thing out. Or extract subview. I'm just going to call it car location panel. Because it's just kind of at the bottom. Cool. Hit resume. Then we're going to add the little summon features. And so I'm literally just going to paste this. But I'm going to write summon. I'm going to make this maybe a title 3. I don't know if that's small enough. I don't think so. So let's go headline. I'm going to add a normal piece of text. And it's just going to say, press, control, whatever. Remove that. Okay, I can remove that. Yeah, this is fine. We don't need you either. Yeah, awesome. There's a divider there. I don't know why it's being annoying. I wish it wasn't. And then, obviously we don't need this. But we can use a full button with text that says go to target. And then as well as an H stack. With 2 of these with our arrows, and this one can literally just be icon text, so we can say forward arrow.up. And the reason I'm adding text is just because I think it's easier to read. And then, of course, backward arrow.down. We never really styled this. Opacity 0.5. Footnote. And then I'm also actually just going to drop this into their own VStack. And just kind of copy these, but make it 5, like make them like really tight to each other. Because they're related functions. And yeah, I mean, there's our view. This thing's still being wonky, but yeah. All right, so let's attach this to our main view. We can do that once again by just adding this navigation link, and then just writing location view. I'm going to stop it. We're also going to add the same navigation link, actually, to the summon feature, I think, if we're able to do that. And we might not. I don't really care, actually. Never mind. And so we have location. So it brings me a car location. You can play around with this, and you kind of see how this all plays around. And yeah, one thing we can actually do is we can go into, we can actually hit the pin button right here, and it'll keep it on the page. Is we can actually go to our common components, and for general button, we could actually just comment this out, honestly comment this out as well. And if we hit resume, you'll see all of our backgrounds will kind of just pop out. Cool. We can actually just add a background. We can try this. Ultra thin material, or maybe an ultra thick material. No, definitely ultra thin. Things are a little bit brighter. Material in a circle. And so with this, things are brighter. So we need to figure out how to fix that. But then you get, when you do this, you can kind of see it blurs underneath it. So what we're instead going to do is just to kind of finish this out is we're going to do color if blur this else and it's going to get mad. So never mind, we won't do that then. Because, or actually var. Let me just double check. I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't work. Yeah, okay. We can't really do that in comparison because they output different values. But if you like that design style, you can always go with that. For now, we're just going to stick with our clip shape and our normal one. So we have now we have our control view, which has this. We have a little toggle right here that has a button functionality. We can also go to our location. We have a little map view here, which you can drag around. It has a little pin for where our car is and an address, as well as these summon buttons right here, as well as the navigation to go back. So we're just going to go straight into it. You can download this image, which is kind of isolated, and we'll kind of explain why we need it. From our GitHub where this is, or you can download it from the Figma file, or when we link it in the STEM bootcamp itself on your sidebar. So we can actually just go straight into that. Let's go into assets and let's drag in this image and we're going to name it wave. We're not going to use it right away, but we will need it eventually. All right, cool. So we can unpin this if you already have it pinned, and you're going to right click here and create a new file. It's going to be a SwiftUI file, and we're going to call it action components. It's here where we're going to actually detail all of our views that are necessary. Oh, there we go. When I was laying out the camp work. This is where we're going to keep all of our views, and we can kind of test them out to see how they look. So we can start with this notification right here. So let's write struct action notification. It's a view, and then var buddy some view. We're going to have a few variables here. So we're going to have a binding, and a binding essentially allows us to pass in states. Remember from last time, a state allows us to set different values and control what those values are. With variables in SwiftUI, we're not really able to do so in the context of views, but we can in other contexts. So think of it as a variable that we can control that SwiftUI is kind of tracking. So we're going to set it to var open and bool. We don't actually have to give it a value because we're going to actually feed it a value, similar to how we did text and icon feeds with our arrays prior. We're also going to have an icon. So this is not a binding because we'll be because we're not really going to be changing it from the inside. Bindings are really helpful when we want to change something from the interior of a view, like a child view trying to change the parent and such, or receive data from the parent that's still being monitored in real time. And we're also going to write text, so var text string. All right, so we can kind of work our way breaking down this view. So it's obviously an H stack. So we can go ahead and write that it's an H stack. Our image, it's going to be icon. We're going to have text, that'll be text. We'll have a spacer, and then we're going to have a little cancel button, so cancel. But we actually are going to replace that with a button action, and then write cancel. Cool, and we can hit build, and we're still going to see hello world right here. So we're just going to delete this and write action notification. For now, we're just going to write constant true, dot constant true. Here for our icon, it's going to be fanblades.fill, so fanblades.fill. And then our text is just going to be turning on the fan, so turning on the fan. And you can see straight out the box, we kind of have this setup right here. All right, So let's kind of go to the exterior of our H stack, and let's add a padding around it. I'm gonna set the padding to 20, maybe just make it a little bit more larger. We're gonna set the foreground color or the text color to white. We're gonna set the background to dark gray, the color that we previously defined. And then we're gonna add a clip shape of a rounded rectangle. We're gonna get a corner radius of 16, and it's gonna be continuous corners. And then we're just gonna add a padding around it. So this is what we have. We're gonna add an opacity of 0.5 to our cancel button, and also make the font a sub headline, so it's kind of smaller. And we're gonna apply a medium font weight to our text. In our H stack itself, we're gonna align everything to the center. So kind of vertically centered. And we're gonna have a spacing of around 10. So it's a little bit more space. Cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to embed this all into a VStack, add a spacer to kind of bring it to the bottom, and I'm just going to indent it. And then on the outside of this H stack or VStack, we're going to add it. We're going to ignore all safe areas, so it's kind of near the bottom. We can just do the bottom. Cool. So that is basically it. We're good to go with this first view. So I'm just going to comment this out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add our voice command view, which is this view right here. So I'm just going to write voice command view, open, so the same type, constant, true. And then we're going to have some text. I'm going to write go to Times Square. Yeah. And it's going to say we don't have it because we need to define it now. So struct voice command view. And I can honestly just copy these things here and remove the icon, var body some view. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of follow the same structure that we did before. So let's kind of work our way from inside to out. So let's create an H stack. We'll have an image with a system name of mic.fill. We'll hit build just so we can kind of see what this looks like. Should show. I'll kind of wait. So text. We're going to text. It's equal to text. There we go. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a spacer. And then for now, we're just going to have a general button. And inside here, we're just going to have image system name xmark. And that's kind of our X right here. So now let's kind of work on building out this view a little bit more. So we're actually going to put our image or our microphone icon and that text into its own H stack, and we can start to modify it. So let's make our microphone image a little bit bigger. So we'll be using the system modifier. Let's go 24, semi-bold, and default. So it's a little bit bigger. And then for the text, we'll actually go with a title 3, and we'll make it also semi-bold. So that's good to go. With the X mark, we want it to kind of match this same. It's going to be an overlay to that basically. So we kind of want to style it the exact same. And so we can actually just use this same styling right here. This is like pretty much the exact same. A frame with a width of 64 and a height of 64. So it's kind of centered in there. We're going to add a background color of dark gray. Let me try again. Oh, I need an extra parentheses. We're going to have a foreground color of color.white, and then we're going to clip shape it to a circle. We don't really need a shadow over it. So it should be fine. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So I'll just kind of fix the indentation a little bit. All right. So let's add some padding around this. Just kind of get it closer. We're going to add a background color of green. And we're also going to just define the overall foreground color as dark gray as well for that text that we have here, so it's not overwritten. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to command click on this and embed it in a VStack. We're going to add a spacer. We're also, for the overall of the VStack, we're going to add a dot edge ignoring bottom. So kind of go down here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a padding dot bottom 10 to this. And I'll explain why. We're essentially what we want to do is we want to make sure that this icon always stays in the bottom. And the way we can do that is by actually setting the alignment of this outer H stack to bottom and giving it a spacing of 20 between this. So you can kind of see it aligns downward, but since we have that bottom of 20, and you can even go more to 15 if that seems a little bit nicer. I think it actually looks better at 15. And then what we're also going to do is add our image of our wave, and you'll see it's kind of right there. We're going to make it resizable. We're going to add aspect ratio.content.fit, and then we're also going to remove spacing on this H stack, or on the V stack entirely. So now it kind of looks like that, which is pretty close to how we actually have it set up here. All right, cool. So that is that view completed. We're just going to indent it so everything's kind of spaced out correctly. And we're going to jump in to the next view, which is this media player that we have right here. This one's kind of a doozy. So I'm actually going to comment this out. Our media player, so media player, we're not going to really have anything on it, just because we'll have something to control it later. We're going to write media player view var body, and we can kind of work our way through all of this one piece at a time. And the way we're going to do that is by, we're going to make an H stack. We're going to be using this image because copyright, and also it's a little bit harder to just grab it. In this H stack, we're going to have color.blue. We're going to give it a frame with a height of 64 and a width of 64. I said this backwards. Let me hit resume so we can kind of see what it looks like. And we're going to clip shape of a rounded rectangle. We're going to make the radius this continuous. Cool. Then we're going to do is add a V stack. We're going to have some text, so I'll kind of take this song title. Can I copy it? Cool, I can. There we go. And also just copy this text as well. And then on the out after it, we'll just add a spacer. Cool, so that's all good. Let's embed this in a V stack, and we can kind of start styling this overall thing. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set this V stack to have a padding, so dot padding. We're also going to have it get a max width of dot infinity and change it to dark gray. We're also going to add a foreground color of white. Cool. And we're actually not going to touch our corner radius just yet, because I'll explain how we're going to do that, because we only want it to curve the top two and not the bottom. Embed this once again in another V stack, add a spacer, and then on this outer one, we're going to write dot edge ignores dot bottom. There. And what we're actually going to do is we want to have a little bit more spacing. We're just going to add another padding, but it's going to be at the bottom. It's going to be 20 only. Add one. There we go. That way we just have a little bit more space to work within. All right, so let's kind of work on styling this view right here. For this, we're going to, first, we're going to align this to the leading. We're going to make it have a spacing of 5. For this top title, it's going to be a headline with a font weight of semi-bold. And the other one's going to have a font that's a footnote with a font weight of medium and an opacity of 0.5, just to make it gray. Cool. For this other H stack right here, we're going to obviously set an alignment to be to the center, as well as a spacing of 10. Just make it a little bit more spaced out. All right, cool. So we have this done. So now we can kind of go into the next thing. And also while we're at it, let's just make this have a spacing of 20. All right, so after this H stack, we're going to work on adding this little bar right here. So this will be a V stack with an H stack on top and a Z stack actually on the bottom. You've only seen Z stack be used on the outer, and we're going to now use it once again to kind of get this to be over the top of it and kind of build over a view. This H stack is remarkably simple. It's literally just two texts and a spacer. So spacer. Cool. That's basically it. We're going to add a font. We're going to use the system modifier to be 12, medium, and monospaced. And then obviously an opacity of 0.5. So that's kind of that. You can make it bigger if you'd like, maybe a 14. Might look a little bit nicer, or 13, something like that. With this Z stack, what we're going to do is we're going to set it to an alignment of leading, because we want it to kind of be from the start. And we're going to offset this little button from the beginning, which is right here instead of from the center. What we're going to do is write color.white.opacity 0.25, and it kind of takes up all the space. That's what these colors do. They'll try and take up as much space as possible, similar to a spacer. And we're going to give it a height of 6. Then we're going to add a clip shape of a capsule. And you can kind of see we already have the bar. Then since it's a Z stack, we can overlay. We're going to do a color of green and literally just copy the same thing. But you see it fills the whole way through. So what we're going to actually do is also add a max width of 200. And you can kind of see now it stops somewhere there. And then finally, we're going to write color.white. And it's going to try and do that. We're going to add a frame. We're going to set a width of 16 and a height of 16. And you can see it'll start at the beginning. We're going to add a clip shape of a circle to it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add an offset of X, which allows us to move our view on the screen by an offset it. And we're going to set this offset to basically 200 minus 8. Which is 192. And the reason we do that is because we want it to be in the center. So this is 16 wide. So we'll do 8. And we want it to be kind of, and this is 200. So we'll subtract so we can have 8 more. So it's kind of in the center of that. For this V stack, we're going to actually add a spacing of 5 and make it kind of tighter. Then after this V stack, we're going to add our custom divider. And now comes one of the most tedious parts ever, which is working on this, which is kind of nested H stacks. So H stack, H stack, H stack. And there's going to be a spacer between this H stack. All right. So let's kind of work our way from left to right. So with this first H stack, we're going to add obviously an alignment of center and a spacing of 20. We're going to make them all buttons just so they kind of have that little press. And literally inside, we're just going to add backward.fill. We're going to write .font.system 20.semibold.default, and then add an opacity of 0.5. And then just copy this again. Do forward.fill. Then paste this in the middle, and then write play pause.fill. Oh yeah, that should also be a button. Sorry. And I'm gonna indent this all because there's so much going on. Cool. So that's that. And then for the other H stack, I'll kind of just copy this so we can have the same alignment and centering. And we can literally just copy this twice. Make this minus. Make this plus. So we have our minus and plus button. And now we're going to do something really, really weird. And so you can kind of see here that this icon is kind of filled in a little bit and isn't filled in the other way around. The way we did this, or I did this, is with a radial gradient. And a radial gradient kind of looks like this, and I'll kind of show you. So I can do Command-Shift-L, or I'm going to hit the plus button. If it pops up, oh, it showed up on my other screen here. We'll write radial gradient. And I'll just kind of click here so you can kind of see what it looks like. And so a radial gradient compared to a linear gradient is kind of like, I guess, directional, where a radial gradient kind of comes from is based on a radius. So I can actually get a frame just so I can show you. I'll make it kind of big. And then I'll make the 64. Cool. You can kind of see it looks like that. And so what we're going to do is actually use something called masking to make this effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a color of white to white.opacity 0.1. So it looks like that. We're going to have a center from the leading, so the left side, so it looks like this. And we're going to have a starting radius of 31 and then end radius of 32. So it just kind of looks like this. I'm going to remove this. We're going to change the frame to 44. And then what we're going to do is we're going to write mask and literally just copy this in. You remove the opacity. And then this is going to be speaker.wave.3.fill. And you can kind of see we get the same effect by using a radial gradient to get away with that. And so if you were actually developing this app, you could use this radial gradient with a little bit of math. And so every time they press the plus or minus button, you modify what the interior start radius is. And you can kind of see we can go down 29. You can kind of modify both those values. So if I went, 15 to 16, you can kind of see that it's not all the way filled. But we're going to do 31, 32 because that looks the best. All right, so we finished the media player now. That was pretty much it. But now we actually have to focus on these rounded edges. And what we're going to do is we're going to add something called a view extension. And a view extension allows us to add things to SwiftUI that weren't previously there. So we're going to write extension view func corner radius, so kind of like a modifier. This underscore means we're not going to kind of ask for it. I'll kind of explain what that means. CG float, which is basically a number, and then corners UI rect corner, and we're going to return some view. Clip shape rounded corner. It's going to be a view we're going to create. Radius corners. And then we're going to create another struct, rounded corner. It's going to be a view, var radius CG float. It's going to be equal to dot infinity, var corners UI rect corner, all corners, func path, CG rect. It's going to give us a path. Let path equals UI Bezier path, rounded rect, corner radius, or we'll do corner radii, CG size, width, radius, height, radius. Return path.cg path. All right, so see what I messed up here. Oh, this, most likely. By rounding. And this shouldn't be a view, this should be a shape. There we go. This is from an awesome person on Stack Overflow, so thanks to them. I'll probably have them written down in the description. So with this, we can actually right now write corner radius. We haven't really used corner radius yet. We've been using a lot of clip shape because I prefer it more, because I have more control over it, I guess. But here, what we can do is we can literally now write 16 and then specify we want the top right and the top left. I said that backwards once again. And this should be dot. All right, resume. And now we have this little curve. Awesome. All right, now let's move on to our final view, which will be our charging view, which is this one. And it's actually super similar to our previous one, so I'm just going to copy it, paste it, and rename it to charging view. And at the top, we'll comment this out and write charging view. Hit resume. So what we're going to do is I'm going to remove this entire H stack. So that's gone. I'm going to remove this H stack. So now all we're kind of left with is this. Okay, so right here after your V spacing 20, we're going to add a label. Inside this, we're going to have bolt.fill and then 237 miles. It's going to have a font.system 24.semibold.rounded. It's going to have a foreground color of green. Make this a little bit bigger so you can kind of see it. There we go. And I'm actually going to add this into its own VStack. Add an alignment of leading of 5. And I'm actually also going to add an alignment dot leading here because we don't actually need spacers at all. That way we can kind of have it aligned like that. We're going to add a text. And inside this text, I'm just going to literally copy what this says. Oh, that was bad. This is going to be a subheadline. It's going to have a font weight of medium. It's going to indent that. Cool. After this, we're going to actually remove. We're going to add also an alignment leading to this. And we're going to replace this with text that says charge limit 315 miles. But we don't actually need this. We'll just do font.footnote, font weight.medium. Problem solved right there. And so that's basically the majority of our view already done. And then finally at the bottom, we're just going to add a button that says stop charging. So and here it's going to say stop charging. It's going to be a footnote. It's going to have a font weight of medium, padding vertical of 8, padding horizontal of 14. The background of it is going to be the red that we kind of defined. It's a different red than this one, which I think this one suits us better. And then obviously a clip shape that says capsule on it, so we can get the full rounding of it. And then on the outside of this, I'm going to add a frame max width dot infinity. That way it just kind of gets centered. All right, cool. And so that is our last view that we get to kind of make. Now it's all about kind of combining all these together and fixing a lot of things that we did originally to make sure we can do this. So you can close out of this file, open up content view. We're gonna be doing a lot of work here now to kind of make sure everything works. So let's start with this little voice command button that we have down here. I'm gonna kind of lower that. So right here, we're gonna actually add a state private var open voice command equals false. Now we're actually gonna open up, you can command jump to definition. We're gonna jump to our voice command button, which is right here. And kind of modify it a little bit. We're going to add a binding so we can kind of feed in that state, but also manipulate it, bool. We're actually going to wrap this inside an image, or a button, paste it. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to write with animation, open equals true. Okay, resume. And now it's going to ask for the parameter so we can feed it in, and we can do that with a $sign open voice command. Can hit resume. If we click on the button, nothing's really going to happen, and that's because we don't really have any actions tied to it. So what we're going to do is right below this, we're going to write if open, actually we don't even need the print, if open voice command, then we're going to write voice command view open voice command, and our text will be take me to Olive Garden, something like that. You can now see if we click on this, we kind of have it opens, but it doesn't really allow us to close it back up. So you can open, but we can't close it. So we can actually go into our voice command view, so jump to definition. And inside of our voice command view, we can open this action and write with animation open equals false. You can go back, hit resume, and you can now see that we can open and close it. But we have a little bit of an issue here where you can kind of see the animation doesn't really work. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a thing called a z-index, which basically evaluates the depth of an item. So everything has a z-index of 0, right? Which means that things can overlay each other weirdly. So we can literally just apply a z-index of 1, hit resume, and you can see now it's fading a little bit better. But I don't really like the fade. I'm going to add a .transition.move.bottom. You might be seeing that on the entrance it's a little bit static, but when you build it to your phone or open the simulator by just hitting the play button, it works well. Just the preview has a little bug with it. So you can now see if we click on it, it fades, it slides out. But if you actually look at our demo, I'm going to kind of pull this over here, hit the play button. You can see that everything kind of fades out in the background. When we click outside, there's like a kind of a gray fade. So let's add that. And the way we're going to do that is, since we're inside of a Z stack, we can write color.black.opacity 0.5. We can write edge ignoring all, so it covers up the whole view. We can give it a transition of an opacity, so it fades in and out. And we can add an on tap gesture. It's similar to a button, but we don't really get the cool kind of fade animation that happens. But we can still use with animation, and we'll write open voice command equals false. Now, we don't want it to always be showing, so what we're going to do is we're going to also wrap this inside a parentheses. I'm going to do that one inside of parentheses. And now you can see when we click on it, we kind of get the little fade, and we can actually click on this to exit out. And it does block other touching like inputs. So like if I scroll, now I can click on that only when this is out of sight. So that's the first thing done, right? We're good to go. Let's add a few more states, and we're going to kind of implement them as such. So state private var open media controls equals false at state private var open charging equals false at state private var action text, and we're going to set this equal to a string that's empty, at state private var action icon, also set to an empty string, and at state private var open action equals false. Okay, these are all the states that we're going to be needing. What I want to do is actually tie the charging to this little thing here. Let's make that a button. So in car section, we'll just write open charging. And I'm actually going to open up this car section, so jump to that, and add a binding. Add binding var charging bool. Honestly, we don't even need this. We can actually just replace that with a label. So label. We'll kind of replace that there. Resume. I don't know why we didn't do that originally, so that's an update right there. I just indented everything. Cool. Inside here, let's add a button, action, and then with animation. You want to do this, otherwise it will let you do an animation. And then with animation, open charging equals true. So I can indent that. We can go back to the top. And so let's add that. So right below open voice command, we can write if open charging, charging view dot zindex1 dot transition dot move dot bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to add these two little lines, which is above the backslash, and we're going to write open charging. And that essentially means or. So if this is true or that is true, we're going to show this black background. And when we tap on it, we'll just set this also to false. So now if I click on this, you can see that we kind of have that pop up as well. Pretty cool and easy. All right, now comes a little bit of the complex things. Our charging and media controls, they're quick shortcuts. So we're gonna need to open up category view and do a little bit of manipulation to how we set everything up, as well as change how our quick shortcuts arrays are set up. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna kind of set two new variables. Let charging shortcut equal, and then let media shortcut equal. And then we're just gonna kind of cut these out. So we can delete that, charging shortcut, and then our media shortcut. So if we hit resume, you're now gonna notice that they're gonna disappear from here. Cool. Now we have a lot of bindings to add to our category view. At binding var open action, that's a boolean, we already defined it. At binding action text, I think is what we called it, right? Yes, action text. At binding var action text is going to be a string. At binding var action icon string. And we'll also add at binding var open charging bool. I keep misspelling charging today. And binding var open media bool. You can build. They're going to complain at the top, and we can start, and it's going to say, oh, you're missing these things. So let's add them in. So open action, action text. We're actually not going to add an action text. Yeah, that's fine. Action icon, open charging, and then open media. Let's just change it to open media, honestly. Open media. And so this should be good. Cool. And then we can just literally copy these and paste them to recent actions. We don't really care about recent actions, but it will help if you ever kind of need it. Okay, we can go back to our category view and continue changing it to kind of meet our needs. Now that we don't have these, we need to show those back up here. So we're going to add if, we don't even need that, title, double equals means you're going to check if it's the same, quick shortcuts. We're going to add an action button, item, charging shortcut, and then the same thing, the media shortcut. We can hit resume, and you'll see that they're going to pop up at the front right here. And we should actually move that, inside this HStack. Cool. So now we have all of these. What we're going to do is, let me double check something. All right, we never wrapped action button in a button. Good to know. All right, so here for action button, what we're going to do is this. We're going to wrap it inside a button. So button, action with animation. Cool, action button item. We're going to write open action equals true. Where it's an action text equals to item.text, and action icon equals to item.icon. We're going to do the same thing for these, but they're going to be a little bit easier and more specified. So button, action with animation. We can all do it in a single line as well. Open charging equals true. And then we'll kind of just wrap it. And then I'll literally just copy this line, do the same thing, and we're going to change it to open media. I'll indent it, go back to where we kind of had these set up. Cool, and hit resume. Now, you can see that now this button opens and does the exact same thing. That does nothing, these all do nothing. So we can go back to the top and we can add in our final views. So let's add in our media. So if open media, media player dotzindex1 dot transition dot move edge bottom, and now if I click on this, you'll see that we don't have the black background, and that's as simple as adding or open media and setting open media to false. So now if I click media controls, we kind of get that we still have our buttons. Cool. And then finally, our last one, which will be if open action. And we'll also add if action text is not empty, which the $sign accounts for. Action notification. And so you can see now that we'll obviously add open action. And here we're going to need an icon. But remember, our states, we made these states. But it actually doesn't matter. Since the notification itself doesn't change those variables, we can literally just write action icon, action text. And we can just use the exact same buttons as before. All right, so now you can say that the same thing happens. But we can't cancel out and the black background doesn't show. So open action, and then open action equals false. We can now click on this. You see fan off, cancel, but that cancel does nothing. So let's actually make that cancel do something. We can open up our action notification, and inside this button, we can add with animation, open equals false. You can go back here, hit resume. All right, and now if I hit resume once again, you can scroll through, and you can now see that the cancel button also works. All right, so now I'm gonna plug in my phone and then build to it, and we'll kind of see what we got as our final product. All right, so I just downloaded it onto my phone so we can kind of see how it is. So obviously we have this design. It's been, we've seen it for a while now. We got our controls. I can toggle things. We have little buttons. We have our location, which looks really cool because you can kind of zoom in and zoom out with everything. And so yeah, now we have all of our animations and components built out. So I can hit the voice command button, and you can see that we have a little pop that says take me to Olive Garden. I can cancel out of it, and you can see the slides actually working this time. I can tap on this faded area and it'll still go away. Charging, you can see that our view looks good. This is a button we can cancel out. Media controls, you can tap on things all around. And then we have obviously these little notifications that pop up at the bottom, say close, open, fan off, open trunk. Yeah, so all in all, it's been 3 camps and around 3 hours of content. But yeah, we've completely and successfully translated all of our Figma design work into code, and it looks really good as our final, I guess, build, code thing, project, whatever. But yeah, that's the end of this very long STEM Pump camps. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more, we have awesome camps about SwiftUI and Figma that are both available, and they'll also be in the iCard here. And we always have new camps every month. So yeah, hope to see you guys soon, and have a good day, night, or wherever you are.